Wake up to Bill Flynn in the morning.
They're watching grass grow.
What, with like a super growth formula or something?
Well, no. Grass is already so interesting. Why bother?
Grass is pretty interesting, especially when we get rain. The rain we had yesterday was torrential, and some flooding up in, up in gracious Stokes County and up in Surrey County and even around here in Forsyth County.
We got lucky in Guilford County. I got 2 inches of rain in the rain gauge this morning.
You're listening to Tommy Cowett. He is with GrowinGreen. This is the Love Your Lawn Hour. You know, that's the thing, though. Grass has to be able to take all kinds of either instant water or days and days and days where we don't have any at all, and still we expect an awful lot of our lawn, don't we?
We do, and rain is very important. I mean, that is a very important part of keeping a good lawn is moisture. And it's not just because of the grass. Mm-hmm. It's for the microbes in the soil. That's the important thing, is to keep them happy, and they don't like to dry out. That's the thing about it. If you let it dry out, you could lose some of your microbial activity in the soil, and then the whole thing stops. All the processes that go into feeding the plant begin to just cease, and then things start to go south, because it's not us feeding the plant. The microbe feeds the plant and keeps it happy. And moisture is very important, not just for the soil, not just for the plant, but for the microbes in the soil. I'm talking amoebas, protozoans, mycorrhiza fungi, bacteria, rhizobium, trichoderma. These are all of the cast of characters that actually live in this thing called the rhizosphere, which is all the living organisms that live in that 1 inch of soil right there. Those guys are gathering minerals. They're mining that soil and feeding it to the plant. The plant's growing like crazy. But without this life, this abundance of life, I don't know how they're doing this on Mars, but growing this lettuce is pretty That's fascinating to me.
Oh, that was actually on the what was it? That was on the space station. The first lettuce grown in space is what that was. But ultimately, you're exactly right. Right, is to be able to grow it on a plate, on the surface of the moon or Mars or whatever.
Hydroponically.
Yeah.
And in that hydroponics solution, it's a wet, probably like it's a hydroponic. It's water solution. It's a nutrient solution, they call it.
So that's where the nutrients come from.
The nutrients are in it, but there's also microorganisms in that.
Oh.
So, you've got an abundance of life going on in that solution.
Like liquid dirt is really
it's liquid
what it is.
dirt is really what it is, but you have to have the microbes.
Hey, by the way, when we're seeing an overcast day, at least morning like this after a big rain, is this something that the lawns are loving right now? Are they just cheering themselves?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, otherwise it'd be the reverse. You just see a desert out there. What we've talked about before, Washington, Pacific Northwest, when it goes off dry, and we're, looking at Chambers Bay, But I want people to be accepting of some things like that. I mean, some environments, microclimates that we have in certain lawns. You have the heavy shade where you might not be able to grow a turf. You need 6 hours of sunlight there. I mean, there's a lot more to it than just the microbes.
I was out yesterday afternoon, and I was mowing some grass, and to your point, I've got sections of the front yard that are, should have been cut a few days earlier. And then I got sections that are still green, but they just haven't grown as high, because of the shade or because of the soil differential, whatever. And you end up with this I find it so fascinating. I think you call it microenvironments or whatever, that you actually have different pace of the same grass in the same yard.
Every lawn
can grow differently.
It will look different in different microclimates. We explain that to customers. I mean, sometimes, can you be accepting of a moss lawn area in your lawn? If that area I just have tried for years, not got any grass to grow, and it's dense shade, but the moss is doing fine. Well, why not just leave it moss then? Can you be accepting of that?
Well, nature sure is. I mean, nature has already determined that line of where things are going to grow.
Nature has already decided what it prefers there. There's microbes working with that moss as well, and we have established some good moss lawns.
By the way, tell me a little bit about the aesthetics, if you will, of well-done moss areas in a lawn. I mean, does it really add something to the appeal?
I think so, and there's actually nurseries out there that are growing moss for availability on the open market.
Just like adding turf to your lawn, you can add moss. I didn't realize that.
Sure. I did a little job over the weekend for a lady with a centipede sod. Yeah, that's a nice new one. Hopefully it doesn't catch on because I put a lot of lawn care companies out of business. It's called Lazy Man's Grass, but it is centipede. And not particularly the best grass, not particularly the most beautiful, but definitely durable and has its place. Have you not heard of centipede?
No, I want you to tell us a little bit more about it.
It's a warm season grass, sort of like a Bermuda.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you've ever heard of St. Augustine, it's a sister to that. Mm-hmm. It's very much like it. It's going to go completely brown on you in the winter. It does not require... Actually, if you fertilize it, you could kill it. I mean, it's a very temperamental thing if you do something to it. It would rather be left alone.
Right, if you just leave it alone, it's going to be fine.
It's going to be fine. Great coastal grass. We used to grow a lot of centipede down in Emerald Isle when I was golf superintendent down there.
So it's a minimalist, survivalist grass. It doesn't want
I've seen
much.
It growing in the dunes down in Emerald Isle. I mean, yeah, okay. And you'll see the runner. It's kind of like a purplish look to it. But for her situation, she's got dogs that run around in a little fenced-in patio area, and this is just the perfect thing. I mean, leave it alone. She's not planning on mowing it. You don't have to mow it, really.
Because it just doesn't get that tall.
It doesn't get tall at all. It just lays flat on the ground.
But see, knowing that those various varieties out there, which may perfectly match the customer you're talking about right there. It was the perfect match for her. A lot of folks may not even know it's an option out there.
Sure. I mean, it's not something you would want to full on. We have maybe 2 or 3 centipede lawn customers, and they have to be treated completely separate from everybody else because you cannot apply herbicides to this like you can any other grass.
Now, what will a herbicide application do?
It will stun it and maybe even damage it.
Wow.
I mean, anything can damage it, but then again, the stuff can also survive in the dunes at Emerald Isle. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, durable plant in certain environments. I mean, it doesn't want anything. No water, no nutrients. Don't give me anything and I'll do fine. But you give it something, it dies.
It's just leave me alone.
Exactly.
It's kind of a libertarian idea. Just leave me alone, I'll be fine. Okay, interesting. We'll come back with more with Tommy Cowett. It's the Love Your Lawn Hour. By the way, if you have a question about how to get the best results and what to look forward to this coming few weeks here, call us now, 896-1980.
Call now. The number is 896-1980, AM 980, The Eagle.
Hi there. It is at 9:20, 20 minutes after 9. We have with us Tommy Cowett of GrowinGreen. By the way, the website, GrowinGreen.com, GrowinGreen.com. And it's the Love Your Lawn Hour. Tommy Cowett.
Good morning.
Good morning. A little bit about Tommy. He's a registered agronomist, graduated from North Carolina State's program in agronomy, has been actually featured and pretty well known across the country, and been featured in publications that want your opinion to tell everybody else in the world of lawn care and professional lawn maintenance and outdoor landscaping and you name it, professional fields that you take care of, your insights. And we're just glad that we have a chance to kind of pick your brain again for this time. And who else is on board with that idea is Will, and he's checking in with us from High Point this morning. Hello, Will. Good morning. How's your day?
Good morning, Bill. How y'all doing this morning?
Excellent.
Beautiful.
Listen, I wanted to ask you a question. I know you talked about aeration before, but I wanted to ask you about dethatching a lawn.
Dethatching a lawn.
Dethatching a lawn. I saw a great example of how thatch buildup can destroy a lawn, and you don't even realize it's happening.
Where'd you see the example?
Oh, over in Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
Actually, Walkertown.
Okay.
One of my technicians, Zach, called me and said, Tommy, you got to go look at this lawn. This thing was sodded 2 years ago, and something went wrong. I mean, this guy's getting treatments. He's only had 2 treatments from us this year, but why did it just completely die? I mean, what the heck happened? So I went over and started probing around with my soil probe to get some soil samples. And I'm finding thatch, which is a buildup of living and dead material in between, just below the plant in the root system. It kind of sits up above the soil, and it can build up. It's thatch, they call it.
Now, is that typically cut grass that has been laid on the lawn?
It's made of roots, dead and living roots. Some of them are alive but not functioning.
Right.
But probably the older. A lot of the old plant material, leaves that have died off. And this is just buildup. So what I'm thinking is this sod was probably grown as sod for a long time with the little mat. Because when they do sod, they lay down this little, it's like a green mesh material.
Right.
This helps hold it together when you're selling it, usually after the first year. This probably sat in a sod farm field for a couple of years with that mat. And then that thatch really built up thick. So I'm talking about 1.5 inches thatch. Now, normally, hey, just an aeration with a core aerator, that's the plugger kind that pulls the core out. That's all you need one time a year to relieve your thatch issue. You don't have to go over there and, I've seen people go crazy, and it's insane where they rake up
and it's,
all this stuff. And then they got all
raking,
this stuff to deal with. You don't have to do that.
Will, have you done that? I guess it's like infinity raking, because no matter how much you rake, you can still rake some more.
Oh, you'll rake forever.
Well, I have used a power thatcher before, but I noticed I have a lot of dead grass this year, and I know it's not dead at the roots, but I have used it before, but it does take a lot of manpower to get that stuff up.
It's insane.
And get it all raked up and everything. But I'm listening to the radio show with my grandchildren this morning, Jacob and Jenna, and they're listening very intently. And I'll get off and listen to your answers.
Well, we appreciate the call this morning. Thank you, Will.
Bye-bye.
And appreciate your extended family listening this morning, too. Now, let me ask you, is that problem of thatch, is that enhanced, or does it change if you bag the lawn when you're cutting the grass or if you don't bag?
No, I don't think it makes a difference at all. I mean, you might say that if you leave the clippings on the ground, you're not going to have as much thatch. I don't buy that.
In fact, just the opposite from what
the grass clippings disappear really quickly. Usually they're gone. I mean, they get decomposed by the microorganisms. Where you get this thatch, I think in this case where I saw it, it was a sod issue. The sod did not adhere to the soil. It really didn't, weld or mend or, get growing in that soil. The root system just didn't, bind with the soil because of this thatch layer. It was surviving on that thatch layer. It was actually living on that. The root system was not spreading out. It was staying in its own little roots.
Which is not a healthy situation ultimately for the plant, right?
Usually we've seen this. Rigsby's talked about this before, the turf commander, where, if you sod a lawn, it takes a couple of years really for that to really take off as, with the indigenous soil. It's not like seeding. Hey, you get something and that's it. You've developed a root system right there in that indigenous soil from seed. You don't go through any of these transitions, and you end up with a perfect lawn.
On this thatch
quicker
issue,
than sodding.
Yeah, on this thatch issue, too, I've already seen evidence that fall is coming. I got some leaves, not a lot, but a few of them that are kind of making themselves at home in the lawn now, falling off the trees. Is that a significant source of concern? Is that something you should – you talk about – turning that into a mulch pile at your house. But if you just chop up the leaves as you're going in, there not a lot of them, is that fuel for the
It is fuel.
For the lawn?
It is fuel if they're chopped. I mean, your leaves falling down on your lawn and you're chopping them as you're mowing. As long as it's not shading out the turf, you're fine. It's best to kind of get them out of the way, but they will decompose into the lawn and become part of the lawn, as long as they're not, causing a problem where they're covering the soil or like sticking to the soil and not allowing anything to grow there. But if you're chopping them, sure, that material just becomes compost.
And then actually the blade of the mower can have a lot to do with the successfulness of chopping those leaves up versus just blowing them around.
Are highly recommended. I love them. I don't like bagging clippings. I'm not an advocate of that. I believe you should return the clippings to the lawn. That way the plant gets to keep what it produced, what it's trying to make for the microbe. Mm-hmm. So you got to keep the whole thing in balance. But then if they're piling up and shading out, they got to go.
That's the issue. Yeah,
and that's the big
your
issue.
suggestion would be they got to go not necessarily to the curb, but to a compost pile somewhere in your property if you got room to do something like that.
Absolutely. Get you some pallets and set up a little compost bin and blow all your leaves into it and wet them down and make you some good rich dirt.
All right, that's a good tip and good information. Good phone call. Thank you, Will. And we'll continue with the Love Your Lawn Hour. We have with us Tommy Cowett from Growing Green. If you have a question about your lawn, what maybe is going right, or maybe there's an issue you're finding year after year after year, and it's really just got you flummoxed, let the expert handle it. Free call right now at 896-1980.
Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM 980 The Eagle.
Good morning. Out there enjoying that lawn and getting it where you want it to be. That's the thing about the Growing Green Love Your Lawn Hour with us, Tommy Cowett.
Good morning.
You're sitting out there, and the last thing you want to be doing is when you're trying to enjoy things from your deck or your patio or just sitting out on the lawn itself, is to be distracted by an area that it's just not doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's a wart.
Yeah, you want to get rid of the warts.
Yep, you got to get rid of the warts. And, you need a wart remover, and normally compost will fix that, and some seed.
Have you ever thought of yourself as a professional wart remover?
I am.
That sense,
I can't stand seeing warts in lawns. I hate calling them warts. That's so, they're bare spots,
well,
okay?
Yeah, but they can be a distraction from what you're trying to do, what
Right.
your goal is. And the thing about that, though, is it can be near perfect all around that little island of problem. And if you could just fix that one island of problem.
Fix the warts. Yeah. Get you some good Daddy Pete's compost or McGill or, Nature's Helper. Even some of the ones from the big box store. Like Scott's sells these lawn soils. Do it. I mean, hit those little bare spots with that compost. Try to work it in. You'll probably notice that the area we're calling a wart is like a brick. Mm-hmm. It needs to have some penetration into it and then be, at least filled with some type of good soil. Wood chips will hold that open long enough to let some air in there and get some root growth in there. And then once you get root growth, you're going to have microbial growth, and then you got a living soil. And then everything busts it up. The microbes will actually go to work secreting these organic acids and breaking it up and softening the soil even more, taking that brick and dissolving it, so to speak. And then it's all about solubility, and that's why water is so important. And a lot of people have been asking about irrigation. Can you overdo it? Yeah, you can, really bad. I mean, you can actually, irrigation is a must. You need moisture to get this whole process working. The microbes have to have moisture. They don't like to dry out. Mm-hmm. Neither does the plant. But you can overdo it. We've seen it even at Stu Epperson's home a few years ago, where we noticed there was a lot of chlorosis. The plants, trees were suffering. For what? What reason was this? We took tissue analysis. We did soil samples. We did all kinds of things. We found out that the irrigation had been running so much that it leached a lot of the phosphorus out of the soil, and these plants started to suffer chlorosis. We were able to go in with some good organic fertilizers and get that back.
So you can actually, by overwatering your lawn, you can cause
Oh yeah, you can
real
leach.
problems here.
Leach. You'll wash it away.
It would be almost like
Too much.
a person drinking too much water and they lose all the nutrients.
Oh yeah,
that
I
they
hear
want
you
to
can
have.
die from drinking too much water.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the same thing. I mean, you can overdo it.
Now, how do you know where that balance line is, especially if you got a really dry patch of lawn and everything else around it seems to be almost like a sponge, but there's still that one dry patch won't,
It won't wet.
Yeah.
Could be hydrophobic, and microbes can correct that as well. So, once you start getting that organic matter, and we're applying a highly concentrated, wonderful compost tea, which is essentially the same thing as putting down compost, but this is in a liquid form, and it also contains things like molasses and kelp and yucca extract and melaleuca and amino acids, humic acids. It's got urea and nitrogen in it. It's just this wonderful concoction that Rigsby's come up with that just feeds that lawn, and and all the microbes, the lawn, the whole ball of wax, everything there is happy, and the guys love it because they're putting down something wonderful for your lawn, and it's all welding together with nature. And, that's kind of the GrowinGreen approach.
All right, now let me get at least a kind of a ballpark here about, watering your lawn. If you have built-in irrigation, that's nice. That's one thing, but a lot of folks are going to be, putting out a temporary sprinkler here and there at problem spots. But are there some early ways to know you're over-watering, other than looking at your water bill? But, I mean, are there some ways you can look at the lawn? You're a trained agronomist, so you're going to see it boom like that. But for the average person out here, are there some telltale things that might give you a clue that this is the problem?
Well, the first thing I usually see is I'm called to come to a lawn that is dying, and I find pythium. And then I check the irrigation timer, and I see that they're watering way too much.
Now, what is way too much? Every day for
Oh, yeah, they're
18
watering
minutes?
maybe a couple times a day
I see.
on fescue, and it's got this disease. The disease triangles come together. Normally it's going to happen at a particular time of the year, usually warmer months, when, air temperatures play a big role in humidity and things, and you'll get disease. That's when people are watering anyway. They winterize, and shut the irrigation system off if they're smart in the winter. But in that, that window of opportunity when we are running our irrigation systems, they need to run to provide about 1.5 inches per week during limited rainfall. That's it. No more than that.
Now, if you get, all right, let's go ahead and say you set your calendar, you set your timer if you got irrigation, or you're on that routine, and we get a day like we had yesterday.
Oh, see, this adds to it.
So then you
shut them down.
You shut off the irrigation until
Right.
it catches up where you need it again, right?
Smart systems, these new irrigation systems that are going in today, should all be equipped with a rain sensor where it, if it detects that there's moisture, it's not coming on. If it's raining, it's not coming on. And, that's the way you should do it. I mean, people can make big mistakes by running their irrigation. I know it's fun. I used to put in irrigation systems a lot, and the people at daycare facilities I've installed, and you love to have water time for the kids, running that irrigation system over and over again. It led to problems because they were running it like for 3 recess periods on that lawn a day. And then they're wondering, well, what's happening to the grass? Well, you're watering it too much and you're killing it.
Is there also a difference between at least the nutrients from rain versus municipal water supplies that are sometimes used for irrigation? I want you to address that when we come back as we continue our discussion about irrigation. Also, last call, if you have a question for Tommy Cowett of GrowinGreen, you can join us for the Love Your Lawn Hour. It's going to be just a few more minutes and the last chance to check in with him about a question you might have that we haven't discussed yet. 896-1980. You can call now, and we'll take your call right next on AM 980 The Eagle.
Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM 980 The Eagle.
Good morning. We continue with the Love Your Lawn Hour. By the way, Laura Ingram will be in the room a little bit from now, and she'll be joining you for a few hours of her insights about what's going on in the world. Always interesting and sharp views that are well articulated. Laura Ingram coming up just after 10 this morning on AM 980, The Eagle. And right before we left the moment ago, we were talking about, if you would describe, is there a difference between the municipal water supply that we're using to water our lawns and natural rain? Does the lawn sense a difference in both of those?
I'm sure it does to a certain degree. I mean, the municipal water is treated, chlorinated or fluorinated, and chlorine can play a role.
Does it tend to burn the grass?
No,
or
what
does
it's
it do?
doing is it's keeping bad bacteria from being in your water so you don't get sick. At the same time, it could be killing microbes. So that's why I really don't like it. I mean, I try to use rainwater that I catch in rain barrels to water my gardens, my plants around my home. Not the lawn so much. I mean, you really can't water such a large area with rainwater.
I want to see that.
From a rain barrel.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, I suppose, I've seen people hook up a pump to a 50-gallon drum and, run it out. And sure, why not? It works.
What about if you have...
That's not efficient, but I'll just say that, it may be insignificant, the type of, microbial populations you're damaging with chlorinated water. But there are filters that are available that will filter out the chlorine, and you can get these. And they're even available on a large scale for, large agricultural applications with some of those center pivot systems where they can filter out the water or put it through a vortex. We can talk about this later, but the vortex water is pretty amazing, and it's almost like fertilizer. Where
Really?
you put the molecule of the water and spin the water and create this water that's actually charged a certain way that actually feeds the plant, and you don't need fertilizer anymore. This is seriously, look up vortex water. I don't think it's a farce. It's true that you can energize the water. I actually have one of these vortex things on my sink at home. And we've done some testing. One of our, my counterpart has a son who's a football player who did some testing, muscle testing, strength training in the gym, and was able to lift more after he drank the water.
And it's a charged spun water is what it is, essentially.
There's a lot to this.
That's interesting.
It's fascinating to me. I don't know how much. There's a lot of hype. The little thing, the gadget that's on my sink at home costs $350. It has some crystals in it. It was given to me by a guru, and hey, I use it, and I'm skeptical, but hey, I'll drink it.
All right, now we've talked about one last thing about irrigation. Then I want to talk. We got to save time to talk about seeding, which is really critical. But this last thought. You've got municipal water supply. You maybe are using
pond water, or lake
water. We haven't talked about that. If you have access to pond water, lake water.
Well, I've seen soluble salt problems on golf courses that have a high soluble salt content in their ponds. And every time they water their greens, they're ruining their greens with it. So they've got to condition that water before pumping it onto the green sometimes.
So the best of all possible worlds is rainwater.
Rainwater's the best.
And then
absolutely.
All right, let's turn the tape. Thank you for the folks that are asking about irrigation, and we will continue to touch on that topic through time, especially as we get into this. This is the critical window of time for seeding the lawn and getting those things scheduled. Talk to me about GrowinGreen and what you're doing.
On September 1st, or the first Monday in September, we will head out the door armed with the best seed in the world, the Barenbrug 100% weed-free water saver blend of fescue that is bar none the most beautiful grass you could possibly grow.
Now, you said 100% weed-free. Now, that's not it's a fast thing to say, but that is an incredible achievement.
That's what we want. And Barenbrug has the ability to clean seed. They've got a big facility out in Oregon where they can actually they run belts and they shake that seed and they get rid of all the weed seed. And John Turf Commander will tell you is he's got a formula about how if you even have 0.0006% weed seed in your bag of seed, you're throwing out millions. You're planting millions of weeds. This is wrong.
Even at that low a concentration.
Even in that low account, because the seeds are so tiny.
Now, unless you're getting, though, the specific brand that you mentioned,
right?
Most everything out
and
there
we
is
do
going to
sell this, too, because
Okay.
we buy it by the truckload, and it's just the best seed you can get. And believe me, you don't want weedy seed.
But that's not the industry standard. Its industry standard is going to have that 0.0002% or whatever,
Sure.
which is an awful lot of weeds once you spread that out. But if
It
you go
is.
with, and again, the brand, and you guys will not only put it on, but you'll sell it by the 50-pound bag or whatever?
Sure, 50-pound bags. And you can buy that from us. Give us a call at 336-854-7999 or 1-866-LAWN-HELP, and we'll, get you a bag. But
100% weed-free.
Oh, yeah.
And that is such a time saver. So you're not dealing with having planted your own demise
Yes.
come next spring.
That's right. We only buy the best seed, and we'll also show up with either an aerator, an aerator, which is also called a core aerator or a plugger, or a sled seeder. And when we show up, we will provide you that service, whatever needs to be done over the entire lawn to create the perfect seed bed for this seed and plant it for you. And this is the time. You got a window from about September 1st through the end of, say, November. On into November, leaves are going to start coming down, but we can usually get your lawn up and running to where you're chasing kids or you got to keep off the grass sign at Halloween, not letting the kids run on the lawn. And you're like, hey, kid, get off my lawn.
We worked hard to put that there.
That's right.
Really. And so far as scheduling, though, I mean, there is a limited window when this can happen. So folks need to know either they need
This
to
is
get
the
it done
time.
themselves,
Right.
or you need to schedule that window.
You got a window right now. It's the best time to seed. It's been proven over and over again in university testing. When I did my master's degree, my master's thesis was on the establishment of tall fescue, and did it in 2 locations and replicated for a couple years. And anyway, hey, it's proof, and seeding in the spring does not work. It's going to piddle out. You're going to lose it in the summer. Can't make it through. So this is the time to fuel up that lawn, get the seed out, get it up and running, and this is going to set you up to make it through another hot summer.
And what really is going on that's special this time of year, putting the seed down? Is it that the roots are allowed to grow while the top is kind of dormant? Is that part of the magic that's happening?
Well, it's cooler in the fall, and you do get a lot of root growth this time of year. The soil temperatures are still up and running. But the thing is, it's not getting ready to go through this heat spell in the next couple of months. If you do this in the spring, you're just throwing money away because you're not going to make it typically through a typical hot summer here with tall fescue. It's not going to make it. Doesn't have enough of a developed root system. So if you're on the GrowinGreen program, we're going to be feeding you throughout the winter and on into the spring and then get you through. Now, everything we do from September 1st through the end of May is all designed to get you through June, July, and August with a tall fescue lawn.
And this is the time that if you really want to do that quantum leap for your lawn, this is the time to put that in line, put that whole
Get
idea
it
in the
set
motion.
up for this. This is kind of the way it works. This is Mother Nature, and we're trying to work with nature. And we know that this is the pathway. We're fueling up now. We're going to California, baby. We're going to cross country. We got to go through the desert here in another 9 months. So when we finally hit Arizona,
Right.
But we're kind of going to move in that direction. But right now we're sitting here with the Winnebago and we're fueling it up, and we're getting ready to leave.
You're thinking ahead.
Yeah,
You-
we're
you
thinking
got,
ahead.
The tires are filled to the right pressure. You got a full tank of gas. Everything has to be loaded
That's
right now.
Planning that trip.
So when we get to that other side of the season. Tommy, it's always good to see you. I appreciate
Great
your
to see you,
passion
Bill.
so much when you're talking about things to do with Growing Green. And let me encourage you, go ahead and take advantage of that 100% weed-free seed that is, so far as I know, exclusive with you guys. Growing Green is where you can find it. You can even have them do it, or you can put it on yourself. They'll sell it to you by the bag. But go ahead and make a commitment that this is the time you're going to make a change for your lawn for the better. 1-866-LAWN-HELP.